Hi friends, welcome back to Leelalicious. I'm Regina, and today we are going to make kombucha in the iGulu F1 automated brewer. With this smart brewing appliance, you can make different beverages from beer, wine, hard cider, and kombucha. I've already experimented with a beer brewing kit that I got included with the machine. And I also did some homemade kombucha with my homemade scoby and starter. But today we are going to make it with the kombucha brewing kit from iGulu. I'm going to walk you through the ingredients included in the kit, as well as the suggested steps, plus a few little tweaks I have figured out to just improve a little or just some alternatives for the process. Now let's get brewing. Here we have the iGulu Sparkling Kombucha Brewing Kit. Let's open it up and see what's inside. And most importantly, here in this bag is a Gaia Kombucha Scoby, and it also comes with a good amount of starter liquid, which is actually the most important part. Then we have a little cotton cloth for covering the jug, the RFID sticker, which will quick start the kombucha brewing setting, and a big bag of black tea, and a pre-measured amount of sugar. So going by the instructions from the back of the bag, we need to steep the tea and dissolve the sugar in the keg. So first up we need to get our keg ready. It is all clean already, but I need to remove this clamp and the lid here. All right, so let's get our tea bag ready. This is some really high quality organic whole leaf black tea. I have never actually seen it in a bag before, only loose leaf, so this is really nice and handy. And then we're going to just empty the sugar amount into it. When I make this without a kit, it's about a cup of sugar for a gallon of kombucha. Now the instructions said to fill up the keg to the max fill line with hot water, not quite boiling, 195 Fahrenheit or 90 Celsius. But I just add 1 liter or 1 quart of water because this is the amount that my kettle can boil at a time. And from my previous kombucha brewing experiences, I found this actually works just as well. I have this sweet tea concentrate. That is enough water to steep the tea. Then you can swish around the liquids safely to dissolve the sugar. The added benefit is then it also cools down much faster. Once the steeping is done, after 15 to 20 minutes, we can then just fill in some room temperature water, and the whole mix is cooled down to proceed to the next step almost immediately, instead of having to wait a long time for this entire keg to cool down to at least 78 Fahrenheit, which is about 25 Celsius. All right, now that we're done steeping, we can remove the tea bag. You can see that all the leaves have expanded even more, and really the high quality of the tea leaves becomes so apparent now. Let's squeeze out as much of the black tea flavor and goodness as possible, and then we are done with this. You can discard the tea bag, and we are ready to add our scoby. Open the bag carefully because it has a lot of precious starter liquid in it. This is actually one of the most important things to start a kombucha batch. It is more about the starter liquid than the scoby itself. If you have the right bacteria and yeast mixture in the liquid, the scoby will actually form itself. And then we can cover it with this fabric napkin cloth. You can use a rubber band or just that clip ring that is included with the keg to hold it in place. And then let's move our finished tea in the keg into the iGulu brewing machine. Remove the lid and then place it nicely inside, tuck in those napkin edges and close the lid again. And now use the RFID sticker, hold it or swipe it along the indicated spot on the side of the iGulu. And then as long as your machine is updated to the latest software setting that has the kombucha cycle included, it will pull that up automatically right away. However, even if you don't have the updated software, you can go to the craft setting and manually set the brewing cycle here by selecting the temperature of the kombucha cycle, which is 28 Celsius or 82 Fahrenheit, and then set the amount of days which the kombucha cycle has at 10 days. However, I find 7 days, 1 week is sufficient if you have a strong scoby and starter kombucha. And one third option of getting to the kombucha brewing cycle is when you have the updated software, but say you happen to misplace the RFID sticker for subsequent brews, you can just swipe through all the settings and kombucha comes up here right away. But now, since this is a test batch with the kit, let's do it the proper way with the sticker, and we'll see you in a few days as we check in on our ferment. Here, after just 1 day has passed, I'm having a quick peek, not much happening yet. Here we are after 3 days, and the scoby has started to float on top. Also, a slight film is forming over the entire surface of the tea, which is actually a new scoby layer. Alright, and here we are after 6 days, and definitely a lot of things are happening. This is definitely a very good scoby and starter liquid you're getting with your kit. You can see all these bubbles, how thick this newly grown scoby already is, covering the entire surface. So now also let's give it a try. And as I'm pouring this into my little shot glass to try, you can see the bubbles, you can even hear them. So that just really means our brew has been actively fermenting. And it tastes really good. It tastes fully fermented, not like sweet tea anymore. That's why I recommend to taste test your kombucha while it's brewing, even before the 10-day mark. It might be ready for a second fermentation after only 6 to 8 days or so. But before we can move on to second fermentation and flavoring, we need to remove some starter liquid and the scoby. I'm just using a measuring cup to remove at least 1 cup of starter liquid, which we'll need for next batch, and then a big ladle to scoop out the scoby, both the original one, which will also be connected to a new layer and film. Let's remove and save all of that. I like to place the scoby and starter liquid into a sealable jar, like a mason jar, and store it in the fridge to be used within the next 2 to 4 weeks. And now you can see that our liquid level has moved below the max line. It's at the 1/16 ounce fill line, and this is about the amount of juice we can now add to flavor our kombucha. For second fermentation and flavoring in the iGulu, only juice is recommended, no fruit or spice pieces. However, I should have double strained my homemade pineapple and ginger juice. I did end up with some plugged tubing and had to strain my entire batch 1 more time. So learn from my mistake and really strain your homemade juice, or use packaged store-bought juice without any pulp. And then once you've added juice to at or just below the max fill line, we can now attach our proper lid with tubing and then also the clip ring to hold it in place. Then move it into the iGulu, and I always have to wiggle it around a bit so that we can easily attach the tubing to the keg as well as to the dispenser. And just as a safety measure to prevent any kind of leakage from the dispenser, I'm closing this little claw clamp clip here as well. So while the kombucha kit actually says that you could now go into sparkling mode, which will cool the kombucha to a nice cool serving temperature and attach a CO2 cylinder to add carbonation. I also know that kombucha creates its own carbonation quite naturally if we just let it ferment for another day or 2 at a warmer temperature. So I exit out of the sparkling mode and restart the kombucha cycle so that we have this warmer temperature of 28 Celsius or 82 Fahrenheit for our second fermentation for about another day or 2. The way to tell when it's ready is actually the PSI measure that is on the right hand side of the display. Right now it's still very low, but here after just 2 days you can see it is at 14 psi, which means there's a lot of nice carbonation and pressure, and we're ready to serve. I'm skipping the sparkling mode entirely because I'm not using a CO2 cylinder, so I'm using the cooler setting in the gas-free mode, and then you can select your preferred beverage temperature. The coldest it can cool to is 2 degrees Celsius or around 36 Fahrenheit. And then the compressor will kick in and the iGulu will start cooling your kombucha, and you can serve it straight from the tap. As you start serving kombucha and the pressure starts to decrease, there's one setting you can use in the craft mode, where you can either use the CO2 tank to pressurize or the air pump, and then you just long press on this and then you can see that PSI is going up, which will then also make pouring or dispensing easier. As long as there's pressure, it will dispense. And then once you've reached your desired pressure level again, you can go back to cooling mode. And here we are. After 7 to 10 days, you're ready to enjoy a glass of kombucha in your desired flavor. And it is cool and refreshing and full of gut-healthy probiotics. Look at that natural sparkle. Alrighty, here we have our pineapple ginger mango kombucha. It looks awesome. Let's give it a try. It's nice and cool. It has a gentle sparkle, and it's both still fruity, but you have also the tea and slight fermentation flavor. It's absolutely delicious. I love it. And let me tell you who else loves having kombucha on tap. It's my daughter. She's had a couple experiences where kombucha sprayed from the bottle, painting the ceiling and walls of her kitchen. And since then, she's just too scared of the bottles. She always asks me to pour for her. But now having it on tap, there's nothing scary about it. It's very easy, convenient, always cool, and delicious. This video is sponsored by iGulu, and they also gave me a very generous discount code for you guys. I'll put it in the display or description below. This discount code will give you 20% off purchases on the iGulu website. So if you like fermented foods and beverages as much as me, be sure to check them out and give them a try. I look forward to trying a lot more juice and flavor combinations now that I have this great strong scoby and starter tea. If you're interested in seeing more recipes made in the iGulu, let me know. We could brew a beer kit together, or what I really look forward to making is hard cider, especially once we have fresh local apples available that I could make cider from. Or if you want to learn more details on how to make kombucha in the iGulu without a brewing kit, which is totally possible, we could do that too. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you again soon with another delicious recipe. Bye for now.